Tom, you like Jimmy Butler's new team, new knee brace?
Yeah, man, they thought the Western Conference couldn't get any better. And then look at that. Man.
I like how Jimmy Butler's living that PJ life now, man. No more riding just fast like us slugs, huh?
Yeah.
Good life. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Amino Hassan. Rachel Nichols is still on vacation in Game of Thrones. Today, I'm joined by Tom Haberstroh, my buddy, and my other buddy, former Cavs GM, David Griffin. What's up, David?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry we have to start with this.
No,
I swear to God, I fought for us to not talk about this, but it's August, it's basketball. Another day, another subtweet. That's right, the best player in basketball is back to remind us that he's also the best at sending passive-aggressive messages via social media. They say the Library of Congress keeps an archive of every tweet ever posted for posterity's sake. Well, they got an entire wing dedicated just to LeBron subtweets. Take a look at that. It's actually the Jedi Temple library there. Who can forget back in February of 2015 when he ominously tweeted about fitting out? It was allegedly aimed at Kevin Love. Or how about in March of 2016 when he lectured that accomplishing the dream is impossible if there are different dreams out there. And of course, most recently, the music of Meek Mill has driven LeBron to Instagram to presumably let us know how heavy his heart is over the Kyrie Irving trade request, as well as perhaps maybe letting us know that he doesn't agree with Michael Jordan's talent evaluation. And then last night, he hit us with his latest masterpiece, this time quoting noted Meek Mill foil Drake and saying, quote, "Never let another ride your wave," end quote. The assumption here being this is another remark pointed at Kyrie. Look, LeBron might be just tweeting lyrics that he really, really likes, but he's got a track record that makes it tough to give him the benefit of the doubt. So, Griff, I ask you, as the guy who is...
This pains you to do this.
Dude, I want to talk about real issues that are affecting basketball today, but they made me do this. How did you manage LeBron through these types of incidents that he had numerous throughout the years?
Well, first of all, it's too late. The guy's been to 7 straight finals, and every player and every organizational team member that's ever been with the guy is ridden the wave. So the cat's out of the bag. We've all benefited from that.
Nice.
But more importantly, you don't manage this any differently than you manage anything else. James Jones put this really well. What you have to do is build an environment in which everybody makes the main thing the main thing. This doesn't play in the locker room. This doesn't play in the locker room like it plays for everybody else.
Right.
And it's something for us that, as an organization, you learn to ignore the noise because it's not who he is. He's not passive-aggressive. He will tell you where you stand. And this doesn't impact us the way it impacts everybody else.
So yesterday, Tom, we wore the kid gloves with Griff here. It's his first day. Today, the gloves are coming off.
Yep.
Hold on. You're telling me, when he tweets out the fit in, fit out thing, everyone just walked in the locker room like, it's a regular day at work?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, if the media didn't talk to guys about it, it's not a thing. It's something where you do learn to ignore the noise. And this is no different than the first year Kevin was with us. Everybody's saying all the time that Kevin Love's going to leave. There's no way he's going to stay in Cleveland. He's going to leave, to the point where other teams would call, offer me trades and say, Griff, I know he's leaving. And that's not true. And we knew that wasn't true. Internally, we knew it's not true. So if you can't learn to ignore the noise and deal with this on your own, being in a franchise with the best player on the planet on it's going to be very complicated.
That keep the main thing was something that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, they said ad nauseum with James Jones and LeBron James in Miami. Like, how much do you think LeBron James learned from that experience in Miami to be professional and not be passive-aggressive in these situations?
Well, I think a great deal, obviously, because he does keep the main thing the main thing. And if that was a Miami Heat quote, it certainly was pervasive in our locker room because of the presence of LeBron and James. So, again, I look at this as something that's really not anywhere near as big a story in real life as it gets made out to be. But
by the way, the main thing is to get your phone on silent, by the way.
Did I do this?
Just throwing that out there.
Oh, Mom, come on. Don't text me out during the show.
All right, going from the Cavs to the Warriors, Steph Curry spoke to the Mercury News and revealed that he believes Golden State improved this offseason. Curry said, quote, "I think we got better, and that's obviously a good sign for us. I sure hope we pick up where we left off, so I'm excited about getting back to work." Tom, you agree that the Warriors got better this summer?
I do. I agree because by virtue of the fact that no one else got better. The San Antonio Spurs and the Cleveland Cavaliers did not get any better this offseason, and the Golden State Warriors are young. I don't know about how much Nick Young and Omri Caspi are going to help, considering, like, basically they have their big four. They're healthy and they're young. They're improving every year. And I don't think the Cavs and the San Antonio Spurs took a step forward. So I think their chances of winning a championship again just got better.
So what, you're saying they improved because no one else took a step up?
Like they had the status quo.
Right.
They didn't lose anybody. They didn't get any injuries in the offseason. So just by virtue of everybody falling back, I think they got better.
I think that doesn't give KD enough. I don't think it gives KD enough credit for taking less to be able to keep Iggy and Livingston
Great
together.
point.
You know, they entered that summer. It was a real possibility that they had to choose between those two. So not only did they keep the group together, they were able to add Caspi, who gives them some floor spacing shooting. But what it says about KD's commitment to winning, that he was willing to take less to keep those guys together, tells you they're probably not dealing with complacency, and that's a win also.
One of the things that they talked about after the first championship, Steve talked about they thought they would be better, even though they brought back virtually the same roster. And I said, why do you say that? He said, because the stuff that we were doing in 2015 was just the surface level of our playbook. And now we're going to get to tertiary, fourth-level progressions in our plays and wrinkles that we never, because of familiarity with the playbook and knowing what are the different options out of everything. And so they did. I mean, arguably 73 wins, that's a pretty big improvement for a 67-win team. Then last year, obviously, you get Durant in, and you had to kind of scale it back down because you got to clean it up. And obviously, there are other new faces there, David West and JaVale McGee and whatnot. Again, they bring back all those guys, so now we're going to start seeing the deeper knowledge of the playbook, and I think that's going to make them better as well. Griff, you built teams, obviously, that faced the Warriors in the last three finals. You built the only team to defeat these Warriors. So looking forward, if you had to build, not a fantasy team, but you got to build a roster, what sort of pieces would you look for that's the anti-Warriors antidote, I guess?
Well, part of it is the reality in the league is, and Tom, you know this too, you can't build a team to beat just one team because anything can happen along the way.
Sure.
So if you position everything for that, you're in trouble. But what the Warriors have done really well is they've gotten to the future faster than everybody else, and they're so big and athletic. You need to be versatile enough defensively to guard multiple positions, and you also need to shoot well enough and score well enough to force them to guard for 48 minutes. That's a really difficult combination of things, and that's why there's so few teams that are going to be positioned to do it in the short term. But you just never know what happens to a great team like this.
Yeah, I was going to say the best thing you can do to beat the Warriors is have LeBron James on your team, right?
There you go.
He's the only guy that has done it. I mean, it's pretty simple to do that, right? Just sign LeBron.
Okay.
But also, like, I go the other way on this. Do you try to beat the Warriors at their own game by having multiple positions, guys who can guard on the wing and have shooters, or do you try to go big like, say, the New Orleans Pelicans? I'm not saying they have the role players there, but Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins, I feel like that Twin Tower model might be the best chance to beating this Warriors team because I don't think you can beat the Warriors at their own game. And so you go big and try to beat them down low.
Well, they were playing small and had a 73-win team, and then they added Kevin Durant. Who became their best rim protector. So you're not going to beat them playing their way specifically.
Right.
Obviously, the presence of LeBron gives you a really good likelihood you're going to face them when it matters. But the New Orleans model makes a lot of sense in terms of put them in an adverse situation late in the game where they have to do something they may not want to do defensively. Maybe that gives you a chance. But this is a special team for a reason.
My dark horse pick is if I had to take any roster in this league and say, okay, they've got the makings, Milwaukee's my pick. Because I think to beat the Warriors, you need a zillion 6'8", 6'9" guys that can switch from guard to forward defensively, right? The versatility offensively is yes, you have to keep them preoccupied, but you don't need versatility on offense. You need the versatility defensively because that's where you run into problems because they'll run Durant, Curry, pick and roll, and you need someone who's long enough and quick enough to guard both those guys, and that guy really doesn't exist other than maybe a Giannis Antetokounmpo, maybe a Chris Middleton. That frame of guy, that's what you need, I think. But we'll see.
And Houston, don't forget about Houston, where they shoot and they play high pace. You got to increase that variance and make sure that you guys.
I still go back to, man, that's a beauty pageant. You're not going to beat them in a beauty pageant. You got to beat them in a boxing ring, man.
Honestly, this team this team came one game away from going 16-0. So maybe this whole discussion is moot. Come Come on, the idea that like we're going to construct this team right now. I mean, they just almost swept the entire playoffs last year. So it's really tough to beat this team.
But again, it's tough to beat this team, but nobody's entering this season believing they're not going to beat this team either.
Right.
And that's one of the things that makes this an incredible league. There have been a lot of teams that were every bit as dominant as this for a minute. What makes this impressive is their sustainability of this could be really, really good.
Right.
I seem
and
to
to
remember,
your point, the Milwaukee thing, I agree. I think they're a team of the future in many ways.
I seem to remember a 73-9 team that didn't win the title.
Ah, shut up. All right. Well, I got to go up here. While we're talking about Curry, I want to, again, they made me do this. We have to go and recount the story from 2009 about how Steph Curry came this close to being a Phoenix Sun. Just to set it up for everybody, I'm going to take the wind out of sails on this story because I hate it. But we thought we had a draft day deal for Steph Curry in Phoenix to the point where when the 6th pick was announced and it was Johnny Flynn to Minnesota, we all cheered in the war room. The press waiting 2 floors below us heard us cheering. The front page of the sports section of the Arizona Republic, they said, do you remember what it was?
I don't.
It was a picture of Curry pointing to the sky and says, a new era begins. Because we thought signed, sealed, delivered. News say it didn't happen.
Well, unfortunately for us, Golden State, Don Nelson and Larry Riley were just as excited as the Suns were. He was on the board at 7, so I think they made the deal believing he wouldn't be there and then probably found a way to get out of it once he was. So.
Yeah.
I remember Daryl Morey, the night that Steph Curry got drafted, he said, that's the next Nash. I mean,
We
think
believe
about
the
that.
same thing,
We
obviously.
called him Black Nash for 2 years. That was the
We
code
really
name.
believe the same thing. So.
You know, he was.
That's why close doesn't matter, by the way, in deals. And that's why when people ask you, were you close to anything in free agency, it's really irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You either do or you do not.
It's a horseshoes and hand grenades. That's the only
exactly
place
right.
where it almost counts. No, it was one of those things where you think about what would have happened for our franchise. What direction would we have taken when you have that kind of talent? And by the way, he spent at least a year underutilized, underappreciated, right, in that offense, where Monte Ellis was the dominant guard, where they played AC Law ahead of him for a little bit of time there. So you think about if he had been with us from the get-go, with our trainers, with our culture, and obviously learning from Steve Nash as a all-NBA guard versus Steve Nash, the old man he is right now.
And think about the impact that would have on the team we were just talking about, like they were the 27 Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this never happens
Yeah.
if that trade happens. This never happens if his ankles don't heal. So this is such a thin margin through a season. You just can't bank on things
I
happening.
hate this topic. We have to take a
Let's
break.
keep talking about it.
Coming up, we'll discuss Isaiah Thomas and his self-proclaimed growth spurt, whether or not he'll get the Brinks truck he's looking for. Stay tuned. Oh, cookies right there. Yeah, yeah. Growth spurt sounds really targeted, by the way. It is.
Is the little guy, Isaiah Thomas.
At 5'9", he's something special.
One of the smallest players in the NBA.
The little guy! He's making history here.
Oh, the little guy might have had a growth spurt. According to him, yes, I did have a growth spurt this summer. My first one of my life, actually. LOL. Welcome back to The Jump. Thomas is in line for a huge max deal from the Celtics. Or is he? Danny Ainge has some thinking to do because the Celtics can offer Thomas a 5-year, $177 million deal, or they can just trade him before next summer. Griff, Thomas is coming back from an injured hip. This is a really serious injury. No surgery required, though. What are your thoughts on what the Celtics should do to handle that situation?
Well, I think he said he wants to back the Brinks truck up at one point. And, you know, he averaged 29 and 6. So you pay that in our league. I think relative to Boston specifically, it'll be really interesting because you're going to pay more if they look like they're getting past Cleveland at this point. And also, they're a team probably as positioned as anybody ever has been to sustain the loss of a star quality player like that because they have the elite draft assets they have and players on value deals they could trade to bring in another star. So it's an interesting situation.
And I'm worried about this hip injury. I'm not going to lie. Like this is the fact that a 5'9" guy needs that craftiness to get around guys. Right. He can't rely on his height, obviously. The hip drives everything in the NBA. I mean, when Steph Curry had ankle problems, the way that he solved them was to strengthen his hips. And Kawhi Leonard, you wonder why he's such a great player in the NBA physically. His hips are incredibly strong. So for Isaiah Thomas to get around guys, this is it. Like if his hips aren't right going forward, I don't know if you're Boston and you can hand him a max contract with those question marks.
And they'll obviously know better than everybody else the status of that. So
Right.
speculating on that part doesn't help, I don't think.
And on that front, they did get new trainers on their staff this season. So that's another big change, not just with Gordon Hayward in the fold and the youngsters. They have a new training staff to handle those.
I think the question still lies on 5 years, $177 million. It's never the first year that we worry about, right? It's years 3, 4, and definitely 5. And the idea is, so in your estimation, you do that now because the window is open now, and then you worry about that later, or how do you mitigate that?
Well, I think, again, because they're poised for such great sustainability into the future, they probably aren't going to play the short game. They're going to take the long view of it. So if they decide to give Isaiah that money, it's going to be because they believe he's positioned to be highly competitive for several years into the future, because they're not going to be a team that mortgages everything they've built on the short view. So.
Do you have to sit down with a player like Isaiah Thomas and say, look, I know you're coming up on a big contract this summer, but we need to keep the main thing this year. Not to bring it all back, but like, do you have to sit down a guy and say, I know these contract negotiations are probably on your mind, but we need to focus on winning?
It all depends on how he's handled things to this point. I mean, he may have made it very clear he's not concerned about it. You know, we need to give him the benefit of the doubt there, too. So I don't know how you would approach it.
Let me ask you, Kevin Love. When Kevin Love, you mentioned that earlier, he was going into his contract year and people were telling you he's not staying. How did you guys handle that situation?
Very directly. You know, trade deadline, Kevin, are you really all in on this? It's the same concept. You don't win a championship unless everybody is all in. There's no in between. And you have that conversation with Kevin, and very bluntly, if you want to be here, we want you, and if you don't, then tell us. Because it's not okay to bring down the ship later. It's not okay to undermine what goes on. Right. It's okay to say, you can't do this. That's much better than causing everybody else to fail. And I think if you're very direct, you can avoid those situations.
Right. And by the way, all in, that's why they put on one of the shirts. Let's get to an anniversary we all remember. It's the 25th anniversary of the Dream Team's gold medal win over Croatia in the '92 Olympics. When you have 7 players scoring double figures, well, the 117.85 score could be considered close in this case. Check out part of the USA box score. Let's take a look here. Griff, what do you remember most about the Dream Team? Look at that.
So the sheer awe that their opponents felt. I mean, the great piece NBA TV did, the documentary about the practice sessions those guys had. To see the other players on other teams talking about that team's sheer greatness was really inspiring. And the other thing is it opened the door for modern free agency. It completely changed the face of modern free agency, so that stands out to me as well.
Globally, it's hard to find something that was bigger, made a bigger impact on the game of basketball. I mean, consider at that time in 1992, there were 7% of the NBA were born outside the United States. That number is 24% now. So it's tripled, more than tripled since then. And think about that, a quarter of the NBA is not American players. That's an amazing fact, and I think a lot of it has to be attributed to that Dream Team that just took the whole world by storm.
The other thing the Dream Team introduced was the ideas of buddies playing together in the summertime, and that opened the door for super teams as we know it today. We have to get to another commercial break, but when we return, we'll answer the following question. Whose grandson is this? Tell me. The answer might surprise you. Go Deeks! Oh, don't give it away.
Hey,
Tim Duncan's grandson out here doing it. Come on.
$6.
Tomorrow, don't miss our ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball matchup that features the Red Sox and the Rays at 7 p.m. 2 Johns are better than one on SportsCenter, and tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern, John Buccigross and John Anderson on SC at Night. Look at those smiles. Also tonight, ESPN Films will feature 2 high school basketball stories and new documentaries premiering back-to-back on ESPN. At 8 p.m. Eastern, the Baltimore Boys, and at 9:30, the Morningside 5. Habit Show's guy, Muggsy Bogues, will be featured heavily. Time for Make or Miss.
Yes!
All right. Make Bloodline. Speaking of Muggsy, check out his grandson. He's in the class of 2023, but the kid has handles and gets buckets. Tom, hoping he commits to the Demon Deacons one day?
I'm hoping this already gets it done. I mean, look at that. I'm not going to make a height joke. I mean, I am not going to make a height joke.
I was going to make it right there. I was going to say, I'm just glad that he doesn't look a lot smaller than all the other kids. So.
I'm the most vertically challenged of this group. I take exception to that.
Make oil paintings. Game 7, 2015, The Block by LeBron James One fan turned this moment into an oil painting. Griff, would you consider hanging this over your fireplace?
I need that right now. Not for my fireplace, but I need that.
Oh, look at you.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a good look,
That's
by
a
the
nice
way.
place right
I
there.
wish my house looked that nice.
Can I get a painting of that right there?
Of Griff admiring the painting over his fireplace. All right, make. What we got here? Swoosh. No, it's Mavs rookie Dennis Smith Jr. signed a 3-year deal with Under Armour. I guess it would be a miss swoosh. My fault. Tom, how much will this help Under Armour?
It's great. I mean, I don't know if anybody really knows unless they watch the Summer League who Dennis Smith Jr. is.
They will.
But they will. That dude can play.
I'm going to go out on record right now. Dunk contest. He's going to win it this year.
Oh, I thought you were going Rookie of the Year.
No, maybe not. Nate, dribble tantrums. That's a Griff term. Griff taught the world that. JaVale McGee in the Drew decides he's running point and eventually is called for a shot clock violation. Griff, ever heard of a player getting a shot clock violation in Pro-Am?
That's Sun Devil legacy Marvin Bagley.
There he is.
Guarding him
Huh?
right there. I want to point that out. Yes, you should definitely call a violation for this because you just shouldn't be trying to do this.
You know, there's a SportsCenter producer named Jessica Shobar who thinks JaVale McGee is the best player in the world, and I'm hoping she's watching this. All right, this just in at the buzzer. ESPN NBA Twitter account published this photo of young studs Towns, Porzingis, Embiid, Gobert, Jokic, and Beal. Only one American there. Tom, who is most likely to become a first-time All-Star among this group?
Anyone from the East? I mean, I'm going with Kristaps Porzingis on this one. A, he plays in the East, and B, he's been freed from the Phil Jackson regime.
I'm going to go Joel Embiid if he can be healthy because from a popularity standpoint, the trust the process thing that he's brought to the table is amazing.
I think Bradley Beal. He should have been an All-Star last year, and the East got worse, so I don't know. Griff, thanks a lot for joining us the last couple of days. You like it? Did you like
Had a
doing
good
this?
time. Had a good
It's
time.
a lot easier than the other stuff, right?
It was a lot of fun. I feel like a recovering stress addict, so thank you.
Tom, you be here tomorrow?
I will be here tomorrow.
Sports Nation's next, guys. Take it easy.